In the heart of a picturesque suburb, where neatly trimmed lawns and white picket fences defined the landscape, stood Liam Hart's home. Quiet and unassuming, he blended seamlessly into the colorful tapestry of his neighborhood. With framed photographs lining the walls and children's laughter echoing down the street, it all painted a perfect picture of suburban life. However, there was one element that set Liam's home apart, a backyard shed that looked like it belonged in a futuristic film rather than an average residential yard. Liam was tech-savvy, carrying within him an insatiable curiosity for technology that often led to long nights tinkering with gadgets and software. This passion masked a thrilling double life. When night descended and the world quieted down, he transformed from mild-mannered homeowner to an FBI cyberops agent engaged in covert operations that few could comprehend. The technologically advanced shed served as his command center, a concealed nerve center housing sophisticated equipment and surveillance tools. Yet this curiosity garnered unwanted attention. Neighbors who once exchanged pleasantries began casting sideways glances at the shed, whispering rumors that quickly morphed into rampant speculation. What does he really do in there? They wondered anxiously. The seemingly innocuous structure soon caught the eye of the Homeowners Association, an enforcement body notorious for policing deviations from their standards. The HOA's curiosity quickly hardened into suspicion, resulting in accusations that Liam's high-tech haven was nothing more than an unregistered surveillance structure, threatening both privacy and Wi-Fi connectivity throughout the community. As tensions flared and complaints mounted, Liam remained blissfully unaware of the brewing storm around him, preoccupied with an impending black ops assignment that would push his skills to their limits. Little did he know, within that mysterious shed lay much more than secretive gadgets. It housed crucial elements of a federal investigation waiting to unfold. In this affluent neighborhood where manicured lawns met pristine sidewalks, conformity was not just encouraged, it was enforced. The Homeowners Association, HOA, ruled with an iron fist, dictating everything from paint colors to fence heights. Weekly meetings buzzed with discussions about maintaining property values and community aesthetics, where even the slightest deviation could trigger a flurry of complaints. Residents boasted about their exquisite landscaping and perfectly aligned garden gnomes, all while secretly fearing the repercussions of stepping out of line. As Liam Hart settled into this seemingly idyllic community, he quietly embraced its unspoken code. To his neighbors, he was just another friendly face, an enthusiastic tech hobbyist who spent too much time in his shed, which had become the talk of the town. However, few could fathom the real purpose behind his high-tech refuge. While it served as his workspace for innovative projects, it also functioned as a frontline headquarters for federal investigations that remained hidden from prying eyes. The strict enforcement by the HOA not only nurtured a culture of conformity, but also bred an undercurrent of paranoia among residents. Gossip spread quickly, and every peculiar event became fodder for speculation. Liam's shed, with its sleek design and unusual equipment, sparked anxiety and intrigue in equal measure. "What is he really doing in there?" became a common refrain at neighborhood gatherings. The very existence of such an anomaly felt like a threat to their carefully curated way of life. As complaints swirled and tensions escalated, the HOA took an increasingly aggressive stance against Liam. Organized discussions about the surveillance structure began to dominate meetings, fueled by fear of the unknown that his shed represented. Residents united in their distaste, determined to restore normalcy to their exclusive enclave, while Liam remained oblivious to the storm brewing just beyond his walls, caught between the facade of suburban tranquility and the reality of his secretive life as an FBI agent. As whispers began to circulate throughout the neighborhood, the atmosphere in the once peaceful suburb shifted. The sleek, high-tech appearance of Liam's shed became a focal point of curiosity and suspicion among the residents. What had once been merely a backyard structure now loomed larger than life, inspiring a blend of admiration and trepidation. Neighbors would glance over their fences, exchanging furtive looks and hushed comments about the mysterious man who spent so much time tinkering away inside. At community gatherings, conversations shifted from mundane topics like lawn care to speculations about Liam's shed. "Have you seen the lights flickering in there at odd hours?" one neighbor would ask, prompting others to lean in closer, eager to hear more. "I heard he's working on some kind of government project," another would chime in, delighting in the drama of the unknown. The HOA members, already vigilant enforcers of conformity, began to take note of the rising tensions and discontent brewing among their constituents. With each passing day, the HOA's paranoia grew, fueled by an invisible sense of danger that Liam's shed represented. Rumors swirled that it housed surveillance equipment or even advanced weaponry, ideas that were far from the truth but nonetheless sparked fervor within the community. The HOA board convened with increasing frequency to address what they labeled as a serious threat to neighborhood safety and privacy. As concerns mounted, the HOA sent out formal notices demanding that Liam explain the purpose of his shed and its contents. They insisted it must comply with community standards or face dismantlement. This aggressive stance only served to heighten the residents' anxiety. People who had previously admired Liam's technical prowess now viewed him with suspicion. Paradoxically, while Liam remained unaware of the storm brewing around him, he continued his covert operations inside the very structure that had become an object of both fascination and fear. A stark reminder of how quickly curiosity can twist into conflict within a tightly knit community. The growing unease in the neighborhood reached a boiling point when the Homeowners Association summoned Liam Hart to a special meeting. The atmosphere was charged with tension, palpable in the air as members of the HOA gathered with furrowed brows and crossed arms, ready to address what they considered a blatant breach of community standards. Rumors had festered long enough, now they demanded action. As Liam sat at the end of a long conference table, the HOA president, an imposing figure with a penchant for order, thumped a gavel, commanding silence. He cleared his throat, his voice dripping with authority as he began to read the formal complaint against Liam's high-tech shed. "This structure has been identified as an unregistered surveillance facility," he pronounced, each word laden with accusation. "We believe it is not only a violation of our community guidelines, but also a menace that disrupts neighborhood Wi-Fi services." Gasps echoed through the room as whispers circulated about Liam's clandestine activities. A few members shifted uncomfortably in their seats, recalling their earlier suspicions about flickering lights and strange noises emanating from the shed. The notion that Liam could be infringing upon their privacy ignited a firestorm of indignation. How could he betray the trust of the community? Liam listened in disbelief, struggling to process the absurdity of the allegations. A surveillance structure, he thought, feeling a mix of indignation and frustration. The shed was not only his workspace but also an essential part of his identity, a place where he carried out his covert operations and contributed to national security. The barrage of accusations continued, honing in on the supposed threat to their beloved Wi-Fi. One member urged a vote for immediate action, convinced that dismantling the shed would restore peace and ensure community integrity. As discussions raged on, Liam realized that he faced not only the HOA's scrutiny, but also the chance that his secret life could be unraveled. With each tightening grip of the atmosphere around him, he weighed his options, knowing that this confrontation was only the beginning of something much larger at play. As tensions flared in the neighborhood, Liam Hart found himself immersed in a very different reality. In the dim confines of his high-tech shed, he meticulously prepared for an upcoming Black Ops assignment, one that required not just skill but also the utmost secrecy. High-resolution screens flickered to life, displaying multiple data streams and real-time analytics. Maps dotted with red markers indicated target locations, and encrypted communications buzzed with updates from fellow agents, all while Liam deftly navigated through classified documents. In this moment, he was no longer merely a homeowner grappling with the suspicion of neighbors. He was a key player in a federal undercover operation aimed at dismantling a dangerous hacker ring. Each piece of equipment in his shed was essential for the mission, from advanced encryption tools to surveillance drones, all carefully hidden beneath the facade of suburban normalcy. Yet, as he packed his gear, a gnawing concern crept into his mind. This very sanctuary, his command center for national security, lay vulnerable to those who sought to undermine it. Liam's heart raced as he considered the implications of the HOA's mounting hostility. Their accusations had already resulted in heightened scrutiny, and the last thing he needed was for them to discover the secret purpose of his shed. The thought of having to defend his workspace against misunderstanding and fear churned in his stomach. He knew that as he stepped away for this critical assignment, he was leaving behind more than just tools for his covert operations. He was leaving an open invitation for curiosity and speculation to morph into unwanted invasions. Dismissing the nagging doubts, Liam focused on his mission ahead. He donned a tactical vest and adjusted his earpiece, ensuring everything was in order. With a final glance around the shed, his tech-laden sanctuary, he locked it up, steeling himself for the task to come. Unbeknownst to him, while he would be deep in the field, the very storm brewing within his neighborhood was ready to break wide open, threatening to expose not only his secret life but also the integrity of a broader investigation. As he drove away from home, a sense of urgency filled the air, a sensation that change was imminent, and he could only hope he would return before it swept everything away. The day began like any other, with the sun peeking over the horizon, casting a warm glow across Liam's suburban neighborhood. However, beneath this tranquil exterior, tension simmered as members of the homeowners association convened outside his high-tech shed, emboldened by their suspicion. Fueled by gossip and paranoia, they could no longer ignore what they considered a threat to their community. As Liam embarked on his classified mission, unaware of the chaos brewing back home, the HOA members decided to take matters into their own hands. They had debated long enough about the shed's unusual appearance. Now was the time for action. With a swift nod from the HOA president, they pooled their resources to force entry into the very structure that had become a symbol of their fears. Equipped with crowbars and flashlights, they broke into the shed, their hearts racing with a mix of adrenaline and anticipation. They had convinced themselves they were uncovering something sinister. However, what they didn't realize was that the shed was fortified with an advanced security system, designed not only to protect Liam's belongings, but also to safeguard vital information for national security operations. The moment the door creaked open, silent alarms activated, transmitting alerts directly to the FBI headquarters. Back in the field, Liam was deep in operation mode when a sudden call interrupted his focus. The familiar voice of his supervisor crackled through his earpiece. "Liam, we've got a situation at your address. We're receiving activity from your shed." A chill ran down his spine. His sanctuary was breached. Within moments, unmarked FBI vehicles sped toward his home as agents mobilized to assess the rapidly escalating situation. Back at the shed, the HOA members rummaged through equipment they couldn't comprehend, a world of surveillance tools and classified documents that remained hidden beneath layers of technology. Panic set in as they realized they had crossed a line far beyond mere neighborhood guidelines. Little did they know that this thoughtless invasion would trigger a series of events unraveling not just their own fates, but exposing an insidious threat lurking closer to home than anyone had imagined. As the HOA members fumbled through Liam's shed, they remained blissfully unaware of the critical role it played in an ongoing sting operation aimed at a notorious hacker ring that had been operating in the shadows of their community. The shed was not merely a collection of gadgets and tools. It was a sophisticated command center equipped with advanced technology designed for real-time cyber surveillance. Every piece of equipment served a dual purpose, helping Liam maintain the facade of an ordinary homeowner while also playing a pivotal role in tracking and capturing cybercriminals. Inside, hidden behind what appeared to be shelves of everyday items, lay high-powered servers connected to a network monitoring the movements of the hacker ring. Liam had been gathering intel for weeks, piecing together evidence that pointed to a larger scheme involving data breaches and identity theft that affected residents across multiple neighborhoods. The hackers were clever, using various tactics to hide their tracks, but Liam's operation was closing in on them with each passing day. The moment the HOA members breached his sanctuary, they inadvertently disrupted critical data feeds and triggered alerts that began streaming back to FBI headquarters. Sensitive information on the hackers' activities began flooding Liam's system, revealing patterns and locations tied directly to their illicit operations. As alarms blared within the shed, agents positioned nearby sprang into action, mobilizing to intercept communications and prepare for immediate deployment against the hacker ring. Meanwhile, chaos erupted among the HOA members as they realized they had unleashed something far beyond their comprehension. The equipment they had dismissed as mere surveillance tools began to paint a picture of criminal activity that was lurking right under their noses. Panic set in as they stumbled over cables and devices designed for operations far more complex than their imaginations could fathom. Little did they know that their invasion would not only expose their own misguided actions, but would also bring them face to face with a much larger threat, one that would soon unravel in front of them as federal agents descended upon the scene, ready to turn the tide against a local menace hiding behind a veneer of suburban normalcy. The stakes were higher than anyone could have anticipated, and as tensions brewed within the shed and outside it alike, an explosive confrontation loomed on the horizon. As the alarms blared within the confines of his shed, the atmosphere outside shifted dramatically. Within moments, the unmistakable sound of sirens pierced the suburban calm, growing louder as unmarked FBI vehicles pulled up in rapid succession. Agents poured out, their expressions a mixture of urgency and focus, ready to assess the situation that had escalated far beyond a simple neighborhood dispute. The HOA members, still rummaging through equipment they had no hope of understanding, froze in shock as they watched federal agents swarm around the shed like seasoned professionals on a mission. The realization began to dawn on them that their actions had triggered something serious, something they were ill-prepared to face. Confusion turned to dread as they recognized the insignia on the agents' jackets, their earlier bravado replaced by an overwhelming sense of vulnerability. Liam, miles away and engaged in his assignment, felt the weight of the situation press heavily on his chest as he received updates through his earpiece. "We have federal units on site," his supervisor informed him, urgency lacing every word. "Your shed has been compromised. We need you back here immediately." Anxiety coursed through him. He knew what was at stake and understood the implications of this breach, not just for his operation but for the safety of the entire community. Back at the shed, agents moved swiftly, assessing the situation with military precision. They deployed surveillance equipment and began collecting evidence from inside, revealing a trove of information that painted a clear picture of illegal activities tied to the hacker ring. As they sifted through data logs and surveillance footage, it became evident that Liam's operation was far more extensive than anyone had anticipated. Meanwhile, confusion reigned among the HOA members as they were pulled aside for questioning. They were now subjects of an investigation themselves, facing scrutiny for their reckless invasion that had inadvertently exposed a network of cybercriminals operating within their very community. The gravity of their actions began to sink in. They had not just disrupted a covert operation, they had placed themselves at the center of a federal investigation. As tensions mounted and chaos reigned in the shed, Liam's heart raced with a mix of concern for his operation and anger toward those who had set this chain of events in motion. The stakes were higher than ever, and as federal agents prepared to confront not only the hackers but also the HOA members who had unwittingly crossed a line, it became clear that this confrontation would alter the landscape of their community forever. As the federal agents continued their meticulous search of the shed, they began to uncover a series of encrypted communications and data flows that painted a troubling picture. Among the piles of evidence, one name kept appearing, a name that sent shockwaves through the team. It belonged to none other than the HOA president's son, a tech-savvy young man who had always been regarded as bright and ambitious within the community. The realization struck like lightning. He was not just an innocent bystander, but a key player in the very hacker ring Liam had been investigating. With methodical precision, agents pieced together various fragments of information that indicated the son had been exploiting HOA servers to facilitate data laundering and other illicit activities. Digital footprints revealed connections to local businesses and residents, showcasing how deep the web of deceit woven by the hackers truly went. This was no ordinary hacking operation. It implicated individuals within their own community, shattering any illusions of safety. Meanwhile, tension escalated among the gathered HOA members outside the shed as they absorbed this startling revelation. The president's confident demeanor faltered, replaced by disbelief and fear as he realized his own son was at the center of this criminal enterprise. The repercussions of their invasion now weighed heavily upon him. They had engaged in reckless behavior that inadvertently exposed his family's transgressions. As FBI agents prepared to confront the president's son, Liam received word that his worst fears were indeed confirmed. "We've identified your suspect," his supervisor relayed urgently through his earpiece. "We need you back here for debriefing as soon as possible." Liam's heart sank at the thought of how close he had come to being unmasked, but he also felt a pang of satisfaction knowing that they were finally closing in on the hacker ring. With a renewed sense of urgency, federal agents moved swiftly to apprehend the HOA president's son, leading him away from the scene in handcuffs as stunned neighbors looked on in disbelief. The atmosphere shifted from anticipation to confusion as whispers spread like wildfire. How could someone so familiar have been involved in something so nefarious? The unfolding events not only exposed the hacker ring, but also revealed fractures within the HOA itself. Members began to question each other's loyalties and backgrounds, recognizing that their tight-knit community was more vulnerable than they had ever imagined. As Liam reflected on these developments, he understood that this confrontation would change everything. The dynamics of trust within their community, and perhaps even his own place within it, as secrets continued to unravel in a chain reaction no one could have foreseen. The atmosphere in the HOA meeting room turned electric as Liam Hart strode in, flanked by a team of federal agents. The tension was palpable. The once confident demeanor of the HOA board had evaporated, replaced by a mix of apprehension and trepidation. Liam's presence was not just a reminder of their failed invasion, but an indication that the consequences of their actions were about to unfold. "Today, we're here to set the record straight," Liam declared, his voice steady but firm. "You've accused me of being a threat to this community, yet it's your own actions that have exposed us all to danger." He gestured toward the agents who began laying out evidence on the table: data logs, surveillance footage, and incriminating emails linking the HOA president's son to illegal activities that had been conducted right under their noses. The board members shifted uncomfortably in their seats as each piece of evidence was presented. Shock washed over them as they realized the magnitude of what had transpired. They had unwittingly engaged in obstructing justice, believing they were protecting their neighborhood from an imagined threat. Their earlier bravado gave way to fear, and whispers began to circulate among them, wondering how they would explain this crisis to their families and friends. "Your son was using HOA servers for illegal data laundering," an FBI agent stated flatly, making eye contact with the HOA president. "You've put this community at risk." The president's face paled as he fought to reconcile his protective instincts as a father with the shocking truth about his son's involvement in a criminal enterprise. Liam took a moment to let the weight of those words sink in. "I understand your fear," he continued, emphasizing the importance of addressing real threats rather than succumbing to paranoia. "This isn't just about my shed or your accusations. It's about safeguarding our community from real dangers that lurk in the shadows." As he spoke, Liam felt a surge of resolve. This confrontation was not just personal. It was a chance to reclaim trust within their community and demonstrate that vigilance must be grounded in reality rather than suspicion. With every word, he aimed to dismantle the fears that had divided them and replace them with an understanding of shared responsibility. As the tension reached its apex, federal agents prepared to arrest the HOA president's son outside, ensuring accountability for his actions, while simultaneously sending a message to everyone present. This dramatic showdown not only exposed the truth behind the HOA's misguided actions, but also marked a turning point. It would redefine relationships within the community and reaffirm that true security stems from unity and awareness against genuine threats. The tension in the air was palpable as FBI trucks rolled into the cul-de-sac, sirens blaring and lights flashing, drawing the attention of every resident who had gathered to witness the unfolding drama. Liam stood at the front of the HOA meeting room, flanked by agents ready for action. Their presence signaled that the day of reckoning had finally arrived. No longer were they just confronting accusations. Now, real consequences loomed on the horizon. As agents swiftly moved to secure the area, they directed their focus toward the HOA president's son, who stood frozen in shock. The evidence collected over the past weeks painted a damning picture of his involvement in illegal activities, using HOA servers to facilitate data laundering and other cybercrimes. The sheer weight of the moment hung heavy as everyone watched, breathless with anticipation. "Your actions have endangered not just your family but this entire community," one agent stated firmly as he approached the young man. "You are under arrest for your involvement in a criminal operation that has impacted countless lives." The boy's face drained of color as he was led away in handcuffs, surrounded by federal agents who ensured that justice would be served. The shocked expressions on the faces of HOA members shifted from disbelief to fear. They had set this chain of events in motion with their reckless invasion of Liam's shed, believing they were protecting their neighborhood from a perceived threat. Now, they realized they had become entangled in a web of their own making, facing charges of obstruction of justice for interfering with a federal investigation. As the reality sank in, murmurs rippled through the crowd. "How could we have been so blind?" whispered one board member to another. The illusion of safety and control that had defined their community shattered before their eyes, replaced by uncertainty and distrust. Liam took a moment to absorb everything happening around him. This was his community, yet it felt dislocated and fragile at this very moment. This isn't just about accountability. He addressed the remaining HOA members amidst the chaos, his voice steady but passionate. It's about recognizing genuine threats and working together to safeguard our future. With that declaration hanging in the air, he hoped to bridge a gap between former adversaries and remind everyone present that unity is essential when confronting real dangers lurking beneath the surface. As federal agents completed their work at the scene, it became clear that while today marked an end to one chapter, it also heralded a new beginning for this community, a chance to rebuild trust and navigate forward together amid revelations that would change them all forever. In the wake of the arrest and the investigation's resolution, the atmosphere in Liam's community shifted once more as the implications of recent events settled in. The local news buzzed with reports about the hacker ring's dismantling and the shocking details surrounding the HOA president's son, turning Liam's high-tech shed into an unexpected symbol of justice and vigilance. As citizens processed the turmoil, conversations about safety, trust, and neighborhood responsibility filled the air. Amidst this backdrop, federal agents held a ceremony to formally recognize the shed as a vital part of national security infrastructure. Local officials addressed an audience that included residents who had previously cast suspicious glances at Liam's property. With measured pride, they presented him with a commendation acknowledging the significant role his command center played in tracking down cybercriminals who had compromised not only local residents, but also broader networks across the region. "This recognition is not just for Liam," the lead agent remarked, addressing the crowd. "It represents our collective commitment to safeguard this community against real threats." Applause broke out among those gathered, a mixture of surprise and newfound respect directed toward Liam. The earlier misconceptions that had fueled paranoia and isolation began to shift as people grasped how critical cooperation had been in overcoming the danger. Liam accepted the commendation, but in his heart, he knew that this moment was only the beginning. He envisioned a community more aware of the potential lurking dangers and more united in confronting them together. His commitment to maintaining open lines of communication, to turn suspicion into collaboration, strengthened with each passing day. As days transitioned into weeks, he decided to host a neighborhood barbecue as an invitation for reconciliation and camaraderie. Standing in his yard, he set up tables adorned with food and drinks, hoping to erase lingering doubts and fears among his neighbors. The sign hung prominently from the shed read, "This shed protected national security, but sure, let's talk about grass height," infusing levity into what had been a heavy situation. The event would serve not only as a celebration but also as an opportunity for neighbors to gather, share stories, and discuss their own experiences regarding safety within their community. Liam understood that rebuilding trust required open dialogue, and what better way than through shared meals and laughter. As people arrived, he took it upon himself to introduce everyone, fostering connections that strengthened their bonds. Though proud of their resilience, Liam remained ever watchful. The world outside still posed threats, but he now had a supportive community ready to confront whatever challenges lay ahead collectively. This shift marked a new chapter for them all, one defined not by fear, but by unity in safeguarding their future together. As the sun dipped low in the sky, casting a warm glow over the neighborhood, Liam Hart set up for the barbecue that would mark a significant turning point for his community. Tables were arranged neatly in his backyard, adorned with colorful tablecloths and platters of grilled burgers and hot dogs, filling the air with mouth-watering aromas. Neighbors began to trickle in, some glancing at Liam's shed with newfound respect, while others carried hesitant expressions from their earlier suspicions. At the heart of the gathering was a sign hanging prominently on his shed. "This shed protected national security, but sure, let's talk about grass height." Liam had intended it as a light-hearted touch to ease the tension that had defined their recent interactions. Laughter bubbled up among guests as they read the sign, breaking down barriers of apprehension and allowing conversations to flow more freely. As word spread about the shared meal, Liam welcomed each neighbor warmly, inviting them to mingle and enjoy the food. Small groups formed, filled with both familiar faces and those who had once regarded him with wariness. It was a chance for everyone to share stories and reflect on what they had learned throughout recent events. Discussions shifted from safety concerns to laughter about humorous misunderstandings. Liam took a moment during the buzz of activity to observe his surroundings. Children played games, and adults conversed animatedly about everything from grilling techniques to gardening tips. This scene once felt distant, overshadowed by distrust and tension. Now it symbolized unity, a collective effort to rebuild trust after chaos had threatened to tear them apart. Amidst it all, Liam felt a sense of accomplishment wash over him. He had not only defended his right to privacy, but had also emerged as an unexpected champion for community solidarity. By fostering open dialogue through this simple gathering, he hoped to reinforce their collective resolve against any future threats that might arise, not just from within but from outside forces as well. As evening fell and fairy lights twinkled overhead, laughter echoed through the night air. The sense of camaraderie that enveloped the gathering transformed fear into hope. This day marked more than just a barbecue. It represented a new chapter where neighbors recognized their strength in unity and resilience. Together, they would face whatever challenges lay ahead, bolstered by an understanding that vigilance was best achieved as a community committed to safeguarding one another's interests.